Hello, welcome to Ready Bet Action. I am Jen Jones, and I'm joining two incredible hosts and better extraordinaires. Stefan
Better.
Leco and Eric Dorn, experts at betting. That's what I was going for.
Yeah.
That's good
I
enough.
nailed it. Eric, how are you? How's your week been?
I'm great. It's really hot in the desert still right now. It's like
Yeah.
was almost 100 today, so I'm ready for that to be done. But yeah, I got to go to week 0 college football game next week. We got New Mexico and Montana State, so college football starts here next week. So we got what is that? 8 days to college football. So that's pretty exciting. Preseason football, NFL football, I could really care less about, but I still watch.
Yeah. That seems to be the general feeling lately is like not so much NFL, much more college focused. It's
Yeah,
good.
at least in the preseason. The preseason's pretty brutal. Brutal.
Yeah. Stefan Emmanuel, how are you?
Fantastic. Soccer starts up this weekend. For the most part, I think my internet sucks tonight for whatever reason, so that's not ideal. But we're going to get through this. I'm excited to talk about the Big Ten football, the conference where my Oregon Ducks now reside. So a conference I never really cared all that much for, to be honest. But now it's home. So let's go.
Now you do.
Now I do.
Care. Isn't that how it always goes? And so this is what we'll be covering tonight. The Big Ten betting guide and win totals by Ready Bet Action. Eric and Steve are going to walk us through this and talk to you guys about everything. They put a bunch of work into this. A lot of thought, blood, sweat, tears.
Indeed, lots of blood, sweat, and tears into picking college football.
None of those three. Yeah. I put none of those three into this.
Well, you're off the team because Eric's out here giving 127%. Grinding. He's grinding.
I'm sorry.
Every day.
If he's bleeding while making his picks, I've just got questions.
That's fine. You can keep your questions.
I think we're doing okay. Yeah.
Well, you want to take us through it? Want to talk about it?
Yeah, let's talk about conference winner futures. So these are the odds we have. I think we got these in the last few days here. They should be pretty close if you go look at your sports book of odds to actually win this thing, win the Big Ten, not win the whole thing, just win the Big Ten. So, I think there's some exciting stuff on here. I think you have your Big Four, and then you have everyone else. Stefan, any sneaky options you think here though?
Well, there's no. I don't think there's anything sneaky to play right here. I think you mentioned it, like there's the top 4 in Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, and Michigan. Really, Ohio State and Oregon are not even that odds, plus 165 and plus 210. And then outside of those top 4, next up is USC at plus 2,300. So it's very much a long shot that it's anyone other than those 4 teams. So I'm really not playing this market outside of maybe if I want to go with Ohio State, just knowing that if they do end up in the championship game against Oregon or whomever, they're likely going to be a favorite, and you can just hedge at that point if you want to. So I actually don't mind the Ohio State bet. That's the only one that I'd be tempted to do, though.
Yeah, I think that actually is one of my picks. I think you got 3 teams that could win the Big Ten, which is refreshing. I mean, while it's likely Ohio State, at least you have 3 that it could happen if the season goes a certain way. Where like our previous couple conferences we've talked about, it's like, oh, this is the one team that's going to win it, and don't waste your money betting on anyone else. So, that's at least how it felt. And so, yeah, I'm with you. I don't think there's worth putting your money on anyone below this. So, yeah.
Okay. Who's up next?
Oh, yeah. I think we're going to walk through team by team and just give a breakdown. We're going to go in alphabetical order. Anyone else find it odd that like the top of the alphabet for the Big Ten is Illinois?
Yeah, it made me feel like I've forgotten something.
like we missed someone, didn't we?
Yeah, and like the SEC, you've already gone through like 18 teams, and you're like, you got like Alabama, all the Auburn, lots of A's. here,
Alberta.
Alberta, yeah.
Exactly. Alberta, the powerhouse football school.
The Canucks. Yeah. I think
it.
we just saw it. We were out grabbing dinner and they had it was an old game, right? They were showing old hockey, but it was Alberta playing. That's why I feel like
That's
it's
great.
just stuck in my mind now.
It
I
should
know
be.
you can tell what
We're coming up on hockey season, but no,
getting there.
these are essentially we're gonna go through. It's gonna be a little tough sledding through a few of these teams, like it has been on some other conferences, but we can at least start. Oh, look at the fancy graphics. Man, we are upping our game. We are upping our game on this show. I don't know if that was intentional or not. But
No.
But here we are.
I really hate it, actually. It's kind of making my brain hurt just a little bit. For those of you listening and not watching on YouTube, the graphics are dancing at us. And we're getting into Illinois here.
Yes.
Their win total is set at 5.5 plus 104 to the over, minus 128 to the under. When looking at this team, like I put Franklin, the transfer from UTSA, the wide receiver, on the board here because he's really the most exciting player they have. I thought he could have gone to the NFL. He decided to hit the transfer portal, and I'm surprised that he didn't find a better landing spot. But Luke Altmaier will be throwing him the football. They have a pretty tough out-of-conference schedule because, while Eastern Illinois is not bad, having to play Kansas is going to be really tough. So for me, Illinois at 5.5, I don't know if I think they're going bowling, but they certainly could. And so I'm just avoiding this one altogether. I don't have a bet on Illinois.
Same. I think I just stay away from a pretty mediocre team. They have a mediocre quarterback in Altmaier as well. Should be improved like they should be, but I don't think the schedule is favorable. Sorry, I have to pull it back up because otherwise I'll forget what the schedule is. If you look through it, they're not beating Kansas. They maybe beat Central Michigan, but that's probably a tough one for them. So even if they go 2-1 in non-conference, they're going to lose at Nebraska. They're going to lose at Penn State. You're going to win versus Purdue. And then you got to take on Michigan, Oregon. Minnesota's not a gimme. Michigan State's not a gimme at that point in the year because Michigan State has a new head coach. So by then maybe they're warmed up.
It out. Yeah.
I think just, those last two teams, they're winnable. But man, I guess I'm just not counting up. My math isn't mathing to get to over 5.5 wins. And I guess I don't know enough about them to say to go with an under here either I would have to admit. So.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Illinois. Do you guys have any guesses alphabetically which team comes next?
It
starts with an I.
I already know it.
Oh, wait.
Very fair.
Wait, no, I do want to guess. Iowa? LMNO.
You took a good swing at it. We're
Irish.
We're going to talk
Indiana.
about Indiana. We have some teams playing the Irish. No, we were talking about the Hoosiers, which I saw today. There's a top quarterback prospect, Juju something. I forget his last name.
Juju?
Yeah, Juju Lewis. So he's committed to USC right now, but no one expects
CU's trying to get him to flip.
And CU's trying to get him to flip, but there's a couple people who actually think Indiana might be the one to get him to flip. So that's in the future for Indiana. That is not this year. However, I will dive into mine since I do have the pick for the Hoosiers. I see 8 winnable games on this schedule. And I see that because I think we don't. We're going to talk about Washington way later. I'm going to hit on this a couple times, which is Washington, a home game for Indiana versus Washington is a very winnable game. They lost so much. They are going to have a huge drop off this year. So I see the Hoosiers exceeding this. I'm going with the juice here, which is, it's leaning towards that minus 138, which is suggesting that a lot of bets are heading towards the over 5.5 wins on this for them. They have this Cignetti guy who's hired from JMU. Curtis Rourke is a transfer from Ohio in the MAC, and he was the MAC Offensive Player of the Year. As you can see him here at his back, number 9. MAC Offensive Player of the Year. That's a good conference and transfers. A lot of people will kind of grab an FCS quarterback or others. You know, I think it's kind of a trend we're seeing this year are these like top offensive players from lower tier schools and conferences making step ups, and they can have some success. So I'm taking over 5.5 for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, I think the big question
Lovely.
is with him coming over from the MAC, and then you've got most of James Madison's coaching staff as well as some of their players coming over. They were all very successful at lower conferences. What does that look like against Big Ten defenses and offenses? You know, like this is a different body type. So I'm not sure if it translates. I do think this is going to be a kind of a sneaky, fun team to watch. They're going to throw the ball around the field an awful lot, which is what we like to see. So I think hitting the over early is really, really smart and fun. But that second half of the schedule, once they get into conference play, makes me just a little nervous. I lean to the over with you, Eric, but it's not an official play for me. But I do love Curtis Rourke, and they're going to have a fun offense.
I think they're getting that 6th win for bowl eligibility against Purdue the last game of the season. So it's going to be tight, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I like it.
I really do. All right.
Now I think we hit Iowa, Jen.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jen knows exactly who's next.
The Irish. No, that's not a team. Iowa.
It is a team. They're just.
I know Notre Dame, but
they're not in the Big Ten. But
yeah,
Big Ten schools play them. A lot of Big Ten schools play them. Stave, we both have picks here. Do you want to kick us off with Iowa?
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the schedule.
Side piece.
Side piece.
Sorry.
Yeah, I
the
do
only
have
side piece Stave is allowed to have. Am I right, Jen? Am I right?
Hey.
I do have a side piece bet on Iowa, and we'll get to that in a moment. But here, the total is set at 8.5, plus 152 to the over, minus 188 to the under. So I'm going to go ahead and bet over here. If you look at this schedule, let's run through it. Illinois State, Iowa State, and Troy. You get to start off. All those games are at home. So Iowa State could be a really tough game, but you get that rivalry game at home, which is huge. Then it's at Minnesota and at Ohio State. Ohio State, that's going to be a loss right there. But you could be 4-1 going into that Washington game, which you already mentioned. Washington is down. So then you're 5-1. They only need 4 more wins the back half, where you get Michigan State, Northwestern, Wisconsin, UCLA, Maryland, and Nebraska. I can see them picking up 4 of those 6 wins pretty easily. So I like the over 8.5. There's only one game that I'm sure they're going to lose, and that's at Ohio State. They could go 9-3 or even 10-1, 10-2. Sorry, if they go 10-2 and somehow sneak into the playoff, I wouldn't be shocked. Which is why my side piece bet is just that for Iowa to make the playoff at plus 730. Again, a side piece bet is not something that we're putting like a bunch of money on. It's just kind of this little thing that we want to hit on the side. You know what I'm saying?
Sprinkles.
Like a side piece bet.
Little sprinkles.
Yeah.
Some sprinkles.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, so I see 11 winnable games on this schedule.
Go ahead, Eric.
I see 11 winnable games on this schedule. Again, that doesn't mean I think they're going to win all. But yeah, this team could go 11-1. 9 returning defensive starters, and that's what this team does. They win games like 9-6. This is the most boring playoff team that we would get if they did make it, but it is a possibility. It's honestly making me rethink my pick for Penn State to make the playoff, because I think Iowa might have the schedule more to do it based on who they do and don't play. So over 8.5 wins. They've done this 4 out of the last 5 years, excluding the COVID year, because they only played 8 games, so they couldn't have hit over this number.
Right.
So anyways, that's what
I like it.
That's I have. Yeah, I keep forgetting we have so many teams to get through. This is such a big
18.
conference.
We have 18 teams, and we have gone through 3. So we are going to be here till midnight. So buckle in, get a drink, hit pause, or just walk to the fridge with your AirPods.
Yeah, don't act like you're not in the bathroom with your AirPods on right now.
It's true. We do have up next. Jen, do you have any opinions on the state of Maryland as a whole?
I mean, I know it's a great place to open a business. No, wait, that's Delaware.
Yeah.
No, I got nothing.
That's fun.
Ain't got nothing.
Crab
I'm
cakes,
like
anyone?
Yeah, crab cakes. I know maybe two people from there. They're fine. I can't go any, but they're like diehards about it. That's the thing I have seen. Anybody from Maryland is like, they're from Maryland. So
Yeah, they really are. And honestly, I don't know how much they support their college football team, but I don't have a pick for Maryland. I don't think the show has a pick for Maryland. It's hard to tell. They always have like more talent and don't do as well as they should. You know, I see like 8 possible wins, but like a lot of those being very close. So to me, that's just not a bettable team. Tons of wide receiver talent, but they still don't. I don't think they know who their quarterback is yet. I don't think. I haven't been paying attention to Maryland Terrapins camp.
I think MJ Morris is gonna get the start at quarterback. He's a former NC State guy. Maryland, schedule wise, their non-conference is favorable. You get to play Villanova, UConn, and Virginia. But that Big Ten schedule, now that they don't have those conferences anymore, it's going to be tough. They get both USC and Oregon, the former Pac-12 schools. And then you get Iowa, who we just talked about, and at Penn State to close out the year. I could see them starting off this season really, really well and us being like, damn it, we should have taken the over. But then maybe it gets kind of scary at the end. I lean over, but no bet for me.
Boo. All right.
I know.
Moving on.
Boring. Too much time on teams we're not actually betting on. I'm sorry to
It'll get more interesting as we move on.
To our loyal listeners. Speaking of more interesting, let's move on to the national champions, the Michigan Wolverines. And this is an interesting team to talk about, man. I think this is pretty interesting. I think we have similar leaning bets here as far as what we think about Michigan. So to me, Michigan is USC after Pete Carroll. They are going to have some not rough years. They'll still be fine. They're Michigan, but they are not going to win as much. They can definitely expect a dip. I don't think their fans will mind. I think they have 3 losses right off the bat. You got Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State. They're not beating any of those teams. So that gets them to 9-3, which means we need 1 more loss, which seems like a very upsettable team. Fresno State's not a pushover. USC, like there's some options here. So I found them. You can bet them no to make the playoff. So you can say, I don't think Michigan will make the college football playoff for -180. But Stefan, you have a different pick.
Yeah. So the total here is right at 8.5. I'm going to go with under 8.5 at +132. I think 8-4 is a lot more likely than 9-3 to your point, Eric, because I also think they're going to lose those 3 games. And just to win out with the rest of them, given, they had so much talent leave to the NFL, including their coach in Harbaugh. It's hard to imagine them getting up for another season, just given how much they lost. Yes, Loveland is an All-American tight end. I think he's going to be incredible. They still have a great line play, but I just think it's going to be not quite enough. We still don't even know who the quarterback's going to be there. I anticipate Orji gets the start, more of the athlete than the passer, but the fact that they don't have a proven guy, JJ McCarthy was so dynamic for this team last year, wasn't asked to do a ton, but could make all the throws. I'd say it's a shame he's out for the year for Minnesota, but I don't actually care because I don't like the Vikings. So we're good. So yeah, Michigan, it is a bet for me under 8.5. Let's go.
Okay.
Awesome.
The houses are divided. That's fine.
Talking about houses divided, I'm sure there's plenty of Michigan State.
Oh, yeah.
People. So we can talk about Michigan State. I don't have as much vitriol for Michigan State now that Mel Tucker's gone as a CU fan. So I actually do have Michigan State going over 4.5 wins. They're still Michigan State with the talent, and they have a new coach. That new coach is going to take a little bit to get up and running, so I don't expect some big season. But you can see this is juice towards the over, and I'm going to go with it. I think they got 4 wins that I think are just straight up wins for them on their schedule, including that the last couple might have to come at the end of the year, but they have a really rough 4-game stretch in the middle. So if the team morale can survive Ohio State, Oregon, Iowa, Michigan, that's about as rough as it gets in the Big Ten. If they can survive that, I think they get over 4.5 wins here. New coach should be better. Very winnable games on the front and back end, and Michigan State still has talent just because they're Michigan State.
Yeah, and you've got Jonathan Smith, the coach you mentioned, coming over from Oregon State with Oregon State's quarterback Aiden Childs, who many people thought was going to steal DJU's job last year because he's that good. Like you said, they've got the talent at Michigan State to win games, but a lot of turnover makes me nervous. I think Jonathan Smith is a great head coach. We've seen what he's done with Oregon State, but like you said, I don't know if it happens this year or in the future. More of a long-term, like if this is a stock market, like I want some Michigan State stock, but not on this total, not for this year, but long-term, I like the higher. I think it's going to be good for Sparty.
If you had to just like take a wild stab, who do you think they'll get beaten by the most? Does that make sense? Which team is going to
really slap him around?
Yeah, I want to know.
Probably.
I think it'll be Oregon. Pull up the schedule again. Well, Ohio State is going to really be, in my opinion, much more about that ground and pound game. They're also traveling to Oregon on the road in
after
Eugene.
Ohio State.
Yeah, I think that's the one where they get their doors blown off, whatever you say.
They're going to get beat up. They're going to get beat up by Oregon pretty good.
And that Iowa Michigan State game could be 9-6, like you talked about earlier, Eric. That could be.
We're taking the under on that all day. Speaking of not very good teams, let's talk about Minnesota. I am taking them over 5.5. This is the closest shave of a pick I'm making, by the way. Not that I'm not confident. I just have them right at 6 wins, like really confidently. I think that like they're gonna hit
it,
wins, and I'm really feeling that total. Like I wish I might go bet an exact win total for Minnesota here if I can do that. Max Brosner is a transfer at quarterback. He led the FCS in passing last year, so he transferred in. Defense should be pretty decent. I do think PJ Fleck tends to overperform on seasons where the expectations aren't as high. So man, I am just feeling those 6 wins. Rhode Island, Nevada, I think UCLA is garbage. I'm counting them as a win for a lot. You have winnable games at Illinois, Rutgers, and Wisconsin. After that, you gotta. I don't know. I'm feeling 6 wins on the nose for Minnesota, and this is the closest shave. Usually I like to give myself I think they're going to beat this by a couple wins. And no, this one I'm like, we're landing right at 6 and we're letting it ride. Steve, any thoughts?
When you feel it, you feel it.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean,
like it.
I don't have a pick on this. I like Bangura. We talked about his teammate in Curtis Rourke earlier from the Ohio Bobcats. He is their running back who was phenomenal last year. And Minnesota always has a lot of depth at running back, and he's going to be one of those players that really helps them move the ball between the 20s. Can they score touchdowns, though? I think that's the big question. I'm not sure. I think they're bringing over New Hampshire's quarterback or something like that. I forget where he came from, but some small Northeastern school. So we'll see if it translates. I'm not betting it, but PJ Fleck, again, like you said, a hell of a coach. So I don't hate your pick, Eric. I'm just not riding along with you on that one.
I usually don't pick this close, by the way. If I'm like, man, I see him right at 6, I don't make that pick, but I'm feeling that 6.
I like it.
I'm feeling it. Do we have to talk about this next school, this garbage school
favorite
that
school
we have to talk about? Gross.
I'm gonna close my eyes. I can't.
I hate what I have to say about this school.
Okay.
I really.
You don't have to say it though.
I do. Why don't you start us off with like who their quarterback is and blah blah.
Okay, so Dylan Raiola, true freshman quarterback, coming in to join Nebraska with Matt Rule now at the lead of this program. Nebraska played decent at times last year if you ignore quarterback play, which you can't do in college football. I mean, if you watch that CU Nebraska game, Nebraska never had a chance because they just kept turning the ball over. Dylan Raiola, while a true freshman, is already leaps and bounds better than what they had last year. I think this Nebraska team could be pretty feisty, but 7.5 wins, we need them to go 8-4 or better to cash this, and that's at -120. The under at +100. I'm not betting this team. I could see them getting 8 to 10 wins. Like I could see them doing it. They don't have a brutal schedule. They do play Ohio State, but they miss out on Michigan. They miss out on Penn State. They miss out on Oregon. So as far as schedules go, it's favorable. And I think that's probably why you're leaning on the over here, Eric.
I'm also leaning on the over because I think Colorado's a win finally for them after us beating them now 3 times in a row. I think they do beat Colorado this year. Unfortunately for my Buffs, I'm not too worried about Raiola. I mean, like how I don't know if true freshman quarterback, even like the top rated one, come in and like really light it up right away. But dude, it can't get worse than like he's gonna be so much better than what they were. I see 9 winnable games. I think they go 6-0. I think they go 6-0 to start the season. And then they scrape out 2 more wins, and those wins could come against Indiana, UCLA, or Wisconsin. So that's why you win 2 out of 3 of those very winnable games on the back half of your season is why I think this over 7.5. I feel really, really confident with the Huskers, and that hurts my soul. And we can move on to different topics like the Northwestern Wildcats.
The Wildcats, yeah.
The Wildcats.
Yeah.
Nothing to say about Northwestern. Total set at 4.5, like -120 to the over +100. I lean under, but I don't have a strong play on this. I don't care too much about this one. They get Duke in the non-con, which is going to be tough. Have to face Malik Murphy, go Longhorns. So that could be really tough. I just don't see them getting. I don't see like 3 games that I feel certain about, but also not knowing what we're going to get from Wisconsin, Purdue, Illinois. Like, I don't know if they hang in those games, pull off an upset. So I'm going to avoid this one. But how about you, Eric?
No, I have a lot to say about Northwestern. Not that much to say. I promise I'll keep it short, which is this team is not winning 4.5 games. They're not winning 4 games. They're going 1-2 in their non-conference. Miami of Ohio won the MAC last year. Like, this is they're going to get beat at home by Miami of Ohio in week 1. I'm calling that right now. Like, I'm going to money line. Where did our money line video go? Like, I should have made that pick on the show because I probably could right now. But like, they're going to lose to Miami of Ohio at home. Then they probably beat Eastern Illinois. I don't think Duke's like a gimme. It is at home, so they might win that.
No,
one.
Duke's going to win that game.
Yeah, and so I'm just saying, like, so they could be 0-3, and like, you can't show me. Oh, you're gonna show me 5 more wins for the rest of the season after that with this schedule? Like, not happening. So like, this is actually the most confident under that I have, even though it's really, really low. Sorry, Northwestern. I think we all like when Northwestern's good. They're a fun team that like to cheer for because like they're like
they wear purple. Yeah,
they wear purple. They're not the most athletic because they're like they're pretty much an Ivy League of the Midwest. So it's a hard place to get into, that kind of thing. But like, yeah, that's nice and all, but they're not doing well this year. They're playing on a lake, by the way. They're playing on a freaking lake with high school bleachers surrounding it because they don't have a stadium this year. So they don't have a home field crowd either. You
can get Miami of Ohio +4 or at +160 on the money line.
Oh, all day. I'm smashing that all day. I was gonna make a terrible, inappropriate joke, but my kids are in the room. So you guys are lucky. We're getting a pretty filtered show today because my kids are still awake and around.
Oh, yeah. I realized you don't have your headphones on right now either, huh?
I don't.
We're like,
they know what's up, and I can say the things, but I'm choosing not to. So
yeah,
anyways,
let's go back.
That was
Wait,
too much
you
about
guys.
Northwestern. Let's talk about good teams. Oh, sorry,
Okay.
Jen.
What's round on the side and high in the middle?
I don't know.
Me on a Saturday night? No, I'm trying to.
Ohio.
Yeah,
Round on the sides, high in the middle. Okay.
great
Great
timing for
segue.
the reference. That was
Great segue.
perfect. Stefan, tell us why we're both picking them to win the conference. Tell the
reason-
people.
So Ohio State to win the conference, we mentioned earlier, is at plus 165. The over-under for this team is at 10.5 wins. So if you think they're going to win 11 games like I do, you certainly can take the over, but it's at minus 150. I would rather just take them to win the conference, because if they go 11-1 or 12-0, they're going to be in the conference final game against someone, and they will be the favorite in that game. So at that point, if you're nervous, you can bet the other side of it, and you will walk out with some cash. Ohio State, from a roster perspective, is the best team in the entire country from top to bottom. They have probably the best defense there's going to be, which is amazing because the defense was a real liability for them 3 years ago, and they've completely flipped the switch and changed their entire attack. You look at how they were winning games a couple years ago with guys like CJ Stroud. Now they're doing it with, they brought in Quinshon Judkins, who was the SEC Freshman of the Year 2 years ago at running back. They still have Trevion Henderson. They bring in Howard from Kansas State, who's more of a athletic running type quarterback. They're going to run the football an awful lot. They're going to win a lot of games with that defense and with that offensive line. I think they could go 12-0. I think they will go 11-1, but I'm just going to take them at plus 165 to win the conference, because I think that's the wisest value play on this team.
Dude, Chip Kelly left UCLA because they don't take football seriously, to be an offensive coordinator at Ohio State. They are going to be so good this year. It's going to be tough to not see them winning a national championship. I might sprinkle them to win the whole thing. I should have looked that up before the show.
I'll look at it right now.
Yeah. I think a sprinkle at least on Ohio State to win it all makes a ton of sense.
If you're gonna call it, you got to call it what it is. It's a side piece bet, Doran.
Side piece bet. Sorry, this is my
side piece sprinkle. Why can't we say side piece sprinkle?
I guess my main piece is the conference championship. Anyways, probably best defense in the country, combined with I don't even care that their quarterback situation isn't like amazing, like it can be at Ohio State. Like it won't matter. Like it won't matter. Like they're so good. So do y'all know, like, we're talking about the 3 best teams, like back to back to back. But this is y'all's team, so I'm gonna let Stefan. We did not agree on the Oregon Ducks, I don't think.
House is divided.
So the Oregon Ducks come in with a win total of 10.5, just like Ohio State. The difference here is you get the over at minus 110, and the under comes in at plus 120. I just said that I think Ohio State could go undefeated, meaning that's already, in my mind, one loss for the Ducks. I don't think the Ducks go 11-0 in the other games.
Yes,
and the reason why, Eric Doran, is because we, as an Oregon Ducks fan, we have not yet shown that we can get through a season without a mistake, without losing games, plural, that we shouldn't be doing. We've seen it last year twice against Washington Huskies, even though we were a favorite both times. We've seen it against Oregon State countless times. Oregon will play down to their competition at least 3 times this year, and it will bite them in the ass at least 1 or 2 times. You already had that Ohio State loss. I just don't think there's enough value at having them to only lose 1 game. Just seems too much to me. It seems unrealistic that they go 11-0 in their other games. So
there is a world. There is a unlikely, but a scenario with all the tiebreakers, which I can't even wrap my head around tiebreakers, that they could go 10-2 and make and both our bets hit. So that could happen.
Absolutely.
That's a non-zero chance of happening. Dude, they're going to beat the brakes off of Michigan, and I just don't see where they trip up. Like, I guess Oregon State in a rivalry game, but dude, like, there is not there is not another team on this schedule that can hold a candle to the Oregon Ducks this season. And I'm staring at it. I'm trying to find, except for Michigan, who they trip up against. I can't find it.
I will tell you, I agree with you that they will be favored in all of those games. They should win all of those games. Dillon Gabriel is an incredible quarterback, but he has also shown a propensity to making mistakes. If we get injured, I mean, the football season is so long. 11 wins is so much to ask. This defense, our secondary is good, but it doesn't have the depth that it might need to get through the whole season. So that's kind of where I'm sitting with Oregon. I'd love to be wrong. I think 10-2 is the most likely outcome, and we still make the playoff. Maybe we're a 5 or 6 seed. So I'm not down on the Ducks. I just think the number's a little high.
I do think, and I won't belabor the Ducks, although they are worth talking about, which is Stephon is the biggest happiness hedger that I know. So on his own teams, he is the biggest happiness hedger that I have, that I currently know in the sports betting world.
I like you saying it like that more than I always bet against my team.
Yeah, the happiness. It's a more positive spin.
Unfortunately, my teams are really good, and they win a lot of the games, and I lose a lot of bets. So
I know. Jen, you just have to tell him when Oregon's playing to put the phone down. Put it down and just watch. Girl. Be present. You're his guru, Jen. Just be in the moment. Be present. Enjoy the game,
Stefan. Have you done that ever? Have you ever, without prompting, have you ever had a moment where you're like, you know what, I'm gonna put the phone down?
Yeah.
Put it down, watch the game. Without turning the TV off and storming out of the room.
I can't do it. I really do it myself, honestly. So I can't blame Stephon for this. We should probably move on though to the last contender. This is the last contender in the Big Ten that we're going to talk about. I mean USC, but let's be honest. As far as teams that could actually win this thing, Sneaky could. They actually could. I think Penn State. I think the James Franklin disappointment kind of letdowns for this. A lot of stuff that Stephon was talking about Oregon. I kind of think about James Franklin, which is all right, some slip up is going to happen at some point. They have a new offensive coordinator from Kansas. That should be a big upgrade and a very, very favorable schedule here. I mean, really, again, Ohio State is kind of like the big one. They get USC at home. And so I don't know. I really like Penn State minus 125 to make the playoff. I think they don't make the Big Ten Conference Championship game, but they are the third Big Ten team. And I think because we got 12-team playoff this year, I think we get 3 Big Ten teams, and I think it's Penn State that makes it.
Yeah, I could
Dave, you liked Iowa, but honestly, man, when we were talking about Iowa, you almost talked me out of this because it's going to be between those two. But
they could also have 4. They could also have in there,
Yeah.
And that this is probably a safer bet, But I lean under on Penn State. Not an official bet for me, but that schedule is so easy that they'd have to really, really disappoint to not win 10 games. But I could see them really disappointing. I mean, Drew Allard was a hyped up quarterback coming out of high school. He was a 4 or 5-star recruit. But we haven't seen it yet. Yes, they've got Katron Allen and Nate Singleton. Perhaps I should have inversed those two running backs' name, as Singleton was the higher pedigree recruit. But Allen's, they're good. They're very, very good. But to win out again, like we're asking them to do outside of that Ohio State game. I guess no, they're 8.5. Pull it back up again. I'm forgetting what their number is. I'm on the under, but not officially. I lean under, but I'm not going to bet it. Penn State is a team that, again, Franklin, like you said, he's not a coach that I want to back up. I don't think Penn State's overrated, but I don't think that they're great. So, no bet for me.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I was going to make you guys guess who the next team from the state of Indiana we're doing, but I already blew the surprise.
Purdue.
The Boilermakers, which it's like the Cornhuskers, man. Like, what are we doing with these mascots still in 2024?
Boilermakers is way cooler than the Cornhuskers. It's a train, dude.
Trains
are cool.
It's cool. We're just outdated. Like, where's the software engineers or like the, like that's kind of like the equivalent of that, like today. Yeah, I don't have anything to say. Honestly, we can make this quick. I don't have much to say about Purdue except they're not good. Ryan Walters is my guy. Like he played at CU while I was in college at CU. So like I have an affinity for Ryan Walters. I think the man was a great defensive coordinator at Illinois. They lost more than they gained in the portal. I would lean under. Like, look at that juice to the under, man. A lot of people apparently are thinking under -178. I would lean under. It's not a pick for me because I can't pick against my guy. Hoping he exceeds expectations. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Purdue thoughts.
I think the number was at 5. Like, if you look at most sports books, but I hate having a 5 up there where you can push. So that 4.5, like you said, that minus whatever is crazy. I'm not touching this one either. I don't have much to say about Purdue. We can just move right on.
Jen, are you drinking out of a Stein right now?
Yes.
Yes.
She's a classy lady.
That is.
I got it in high school when I went to Oktoberfest with my German-American partnership program.
Oh, I need to get to Oktoberfest.
The glories of the American system. Like, we can't pay for education, but we'll send you to Oktoberfest.
No, you know what we had to do?
Oh,
my mom, my dad, and I all had to work bingo every single weekend, and we paid for the trip with that. But we had like this partnership with the high school and the local bingo hall, but it was divided by a thick pane of glass, like the smoking side versus the non-smoking side. And so my dad and I would stay in the non-smoking side. My mom would work; she was a chain smoker, so she would stay in the smoking side. And it was like thick clouds of smoke, and so and I just pushed a little cart around with like snacks and goodies and stuff, and then.
The things my kids won't get to experience, like smoking sections, it's a real shame.
Oh, the 90s. And it was at the fairgrounds.
I just remember like my most vivid memory of smoking sections is the Golden Corral. And like my dad loved it, and like there's a whole side that was smoking and the other side that wasn't. It didn't really matter. The whole place just smelled like an ashtray. Anyway, speaking of ashtrays, let's talk about the state of New Jersey. Rolled right into it.
Yep.
Rutgers.
I like
baby.
the hand movement.
Dave, tell the people why we both have Rutgers over 6.5.
I mean, might be the most favorable schedule for any team in the Big Ten. They miss out on Penn State, Oregon,
all of them,
Michigan, Ohio State. Like, they don't have to play any of them. There are 8 to 9 like truly winnable games. On this schedule, I wouldn't be surprised to see them race past 6.5 super early. Spoiler alert, because I'm a dumbass, I bet this over 7.5 last month. So at 6.5 at plus 100, I'm a big fan. So I've already lit some money on fire betting it too soon. Blew my load a little early.
Ew, crazy that this is the first time that we're hearing about it. Yeah, good God, the children can hear you. Can you
yeah, I think 9 to 10 winnable games on this schedule. Again, they miss Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. 6 senior defensive starters coming back. That's going to keep them in every game, even ones they're not performing. Very well. Got
a great running back too.
Yeah, Rutgers over for us. That's a big smash, I think.
Yeah. It's a low number, but I mean, it's still nervous. They're still betting on a New Jersey college football team. So Schiano, though, is like, since he's been back, he's really reestablished that culture, which, it's not really a culture I'd want to play football in, but it is for some people. So
just like New Jersey, it's not for everyone. Speaking of smash, UCLA. I'm trying to really work on my segues here, and they don't always.
I like it.
Always go. Yeah. Speaking of
where
smash,
are we going?
UCLA. We're talking about UCLA. I already mentioned this. Chip Kelly literally left this program as the head coach to take an offensive coordinator job because he knows they don't care about football at UCLA. They kind of like followed USC blindly into the Big Ten. I don't think that was a good fit for them. And I think UCLA football is going to be really bad for a really long time. I got under 4.5. I think you're going to see their boosters put all the money towards basketball and not really care too much. Brutal schedule. They get owned by Fresno State. They do not beat Fresno State well. Hawaii is rough. Hawaii is going to be a really improved, good team to have to travel to the island to go do that. So even their non-conference, like they're gonna get stomped by LSU. Like whatever that spread is, give me LSU. And so I don't know. I just don't see the wins on this schedule for them. I see 2 or 3. I don't see anything above 4. So give me the plus 118 under 4.5 wins. To me, why this is juiced to the over is because I think people see the UCLA logo. I think we saw it with Michigan too. You see UCLA as one of the greatest sports departments in college sports history, and people were like, "Oh, UCLA, I'm definitely going to smack like that over. Like they're definitely going to be over because they're UCLA." That is not what's happening at UCLA right now, in my opinion. Any thoughts on UCLA, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that LSU game. Keep the schedule up because I need it.
Yep.
You have that 3-game stretch of LSU. Then yes, you get Oregon at home, I think. But then I think you're traveling at Penn State. So then you get Minnesota. Then you're traveling from Los Angeles all the way to the armpit of the United States, which is New Jersey. So like that's a lot of travel. Deshaun Foster said that he thinks some of that's overrated, but I think it's been mentioned that UCLA's travel schedule is about the same as the circumference around the Earth. So they're going to be on a lot of airplanes for a long time, a lot of different time zones. Just really hard for a new coach without a ton of talent. I'm not a believer in Ethan Garbers. I think if he had the skills at quarterback, we would have seen it by now. Sturdivant, the J. Michael Sturdivant, the wide receiver for them, who's pictured up here on the screen, is a phenomenal wide receiver. I really love him a lot, but one great wide receiver is not going to win you 5 games.
Yeah.
Tough. Agreed. But they get to go to Hawaii, so they get a little trip on the season. Well, let's move on to their big brother. Man, we are not making friends of New Jersey and UCLA fans, like people from New Jersey and UCLA fans today. I don't have a bet.
If it makes anyone feel better, I did take over the UCLA head coaching position in EA college football. So
yeah, of course. Well, good. I do feel better about that. I'm looking forward to your fake football updates. Just like we do give each other quite a few fake football updates, and we enjoy them. Gosh, we're way too into that game. Yeah, so I don't have any bets on USC.
7.5 is a big number.
Yeah, it's a big number, and like you got Oregon and USC, and if you like, I think it's not even close. Who's more well adjusted going into this season to play in the Big Ten? USC had no defense last year. Caleb Williams was the only reason why they won their games, and so while that defense is going to be better this year, it's just like, it's going to be a growth year for them, and I don't see them getting over the 7.5. It's also USC, so the talent's there. So I don't really want to bet either way. Man, they literally tried to get out of this LSU game like a few months ago. Like they called up LSU and were like, "Can we please not play this?" And they're like, "Absolutely not, absolutely not." So, yeah, I don't.
Did they really do that?
Yeah, they called up LSU and they were like, "We don't want to play this game. Please don't make us do it."
Oh,
they're going to get annihilated by LSU.
That takes some balls though, right? To call them and do that. But also I love that LSU's like, no, show up for your ass beating promptly at 9 a.m. Thank you.
You scheduled us.
Yeah.
You scheduled us. They're not beating Notre Dame this year. Just an adjustment year. I can't see over 7.5 wins. I'm starting to talk myself into the under. Stefan, go. What about you?
Yeah, and I think the games that they're going to lose are going to be brutal, but I think there are still a lot of winnable games on this schedule. Miller Moss threw 6 touchdowns in the bowl game when he started. Branch is one of the most electric athletes in the entire world, and he happens to play wide receiver for the USC Trojans. The man is electric. He is so fun to watch. If you like Tyreek Hill, you will like Branch. That's who he reminds people of, and for good reason. So I think there's enough here. They brought in some running back depth and Woody Marks over from South Carolina, the other USC. So they have the talent on offense, but you bring up a good point. If you couldn't do it with Heisman quarterback and number 1 overall pick Caleb Williams, how are you going to do it without him? Yes, they have a new defensive coordinator, but a lot of the players are the same. Do they actually want to tackle someone in open space? Let's find out. Against LSU is a tough way to start. LSU is going to end up shaping this conference quite a bit, which is kind of fun. Another team with a lot of question marks, and we'll get to them when we talk about the SEC next week. But USC is one that I'm avoiding because I could see them hitting the over, but I could also see the bottom falling out. Lincoln Riley, incredible offensive genius. I don't think he's supposed to be running an entire football program. So I kind of fade him. And therefore, I just don't have a bet because I could see it going either way.
Okay.
Agreed. Oh, I think I skipped a team. We still talk about
the Huskies,
the runners up to last year's national championship, Seattle. I do love. I'm gonna miss going to Seattle's CU games. I got some friends up there. Gonna miss them in the Pac-12. They're definitely one of the teams I'm gonna miss. Oregon's not gonna miss them after a couple of those disappointments last year.
Well, we still get to play them, so
yeah. Oregon's gonna take their revenge this year and feel much better about it. So it's all good. All right, so I got Washington under 6.5. I can't find. I honestly can't find above 6 wins for this team, so I'm going to do that. They just lost a lot. We talked about Jed Fish and staff moving up from Arizona. He's going to have some rebuilding to do. They lost. I mean, you lose a first-round quarterback. That's it. But then, like, everything else they lost as well was more than they gained. It's just not the same team. This is the TCU of last year, except maybe a little worse because of the schedule. And when I say the schedule, you know, I don't see Ohio State on this schedule, but I see some rough travel. I don't think Washington State's a gimme. You got to travel to New Jersey. Iowa, and Indiana. Midwestern travel from Seattle's not super easy. I don't know. You're going to lose 2 of your last 3 games. You're going to lose to Iowa. I don't think they can beat Michigan. Yeah, I don't know. As I keep talking about it, I'm pretty solid on this under 6.5. They might. It's gonna be real close. They might hit 7, but I feel really confident like 5 or 6 wins for the Huskies.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about all they've lost. They would have loved for Noah Fafita to come over with Jed Fish from Arizona, but he didn't. So they're out here with Will Rogers from Mississippi State. They lost their top 3 wide receivers to the NFL draft, all getting drafted super early. Their 4th best wide receiver went with Kalen DeBoer to Alabama. So they have nothing left there. Sam Adams is the running back. I don't know. I don't see it either, but the start of their schedule is pretty easy with Weber State, Eastern Michigan, Northwestern's in there. So they could get some momentum. They're going to play for Fish. He's a hell of a coach. But I'm not betting the over. So I'm just explaining why I agree with all you said, but there's a bit of hesitation for me to want to put money on the under here. So I'm just going to hold off.
Yeah, the Apple Cup against Washington State, I think, could kind of determine whether they hit this over or not. So,
yeah.
Do you believe in momentum, Stavon?
It depends how you
not talking about it.
I called it. I heard it coming. Wait.
I believe in how I define momentum. I don't think momentum can predict the future. I think it is a good way to explain what has taken place up until that moment.
Physics might disagree with you, but yes, from
Yes.
a sports standpoint, I hear you.
We are not. We're talking about metaphysics, though. So,
we're almost at an hour.
Metaphysics.
We need to keep moving here.
Listen,
we got one more team. This is the last team in the Big Ten, and man, what a disappointing way to finish with Wisconsin. I just don't know what this team is or who they're going to be this year. If I'm being totally honest, I don't think they get Alabama at home. That's kind of fun. Like Alabama going to Camp Randall is awesome. It's just too bad that it's in a season like this. It's too bad Wisconsin's not really good, and we don't get to see Alabama, Wisconsin at Camp Randall for this season. So, yeah, I don't have a pick. I don't feel confident with them. You look at that. I mean, that little Penn State, Iowa, Oregon run at the end there is probably not great for them. They got Alabama, USC early. Some other winnable games at Nebraska might be a loss for them this year. So,
yeah, I'm curious.
No
to
bets.
see, I'm curious to see what Tyler Van Dyke does, moving from Miami to Wisconsin. He had a huge opportunity last year to take that next step. A lot of people thought he was going to be great. A lot of people thought Miami was going to be a dark horse playoff team, and it just didn't come to fruition. So here he is at Wisconsin. Luke Fickell, now in his second year. Could we see a second-year jump from him as a head coach? I kind of expect to. But does that translate to wins? I don't know about that just yet. I think the team is going to be a lot better than they were last year, but maybe not have much better of a record. So no bet for me. Gonna avoid. But I'm excited to see what Fickell does with this team. They're trying to incorporate some more what's the word I'm looking for? Modern football
momentum.
techniques.
Oh,
no. Some chutzpah.
No, just not running the ball 96% of the time. So hopefully it works for them. They're going to be well coached. They're going to play great defense like they always do. Their home games are going to be fantastic. But just a bit much for me to jump on board and actually bet it.
Strategery. I think that was the word you were looking for.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the whole Big Ten. Jen, we did it in less than an hour.
Count it. 56 minutes, 40 seconds. It's not bad.
Not bad. Not bad.
We're not done yet. We're still talking.
Yeah, I guess
we can stretch this to an hour, no problem.
Yeah, we got to run. Should we run through the summary? I think we did this well last time. Where
let's do it.
We can run through. I'm just gonna throw up the
run it back. This is.
I will run through our picks. All right. Quick summary here. We have nothing for Illinois for you. No bets, no confidence in Illinois there.
No bets for you. Okay.
No bets for you. Indiana, I have over 5.5 wins for Indiana. Stefan and I both have over 8.5 wins for Iowa.
And a side piece bet on Iowa to make the playoff at plus 730.
Side piece. No bets for Maryland. Stefan, what do you got for Michigan?
I'm going to go under 8.5 at plus 132.
Nice. I'm going to take them a bet no to make the playoff at minus 180. Michigan State, I have over 4.5 wins for the Spartans as they climb their road back to glory. I have over 5.5 wins for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. I have, lots of overs here. Whew, there'll be a lot of wins in the Big Ten this year for me. Nebraska over 7.5. I just threw up in my mouth a little bit saying that. Eric under 4.5. That's me. Northwestern. Ohio State. Stefan, what do we got for these?
Yeah, we're both on Ohio State to win the conference at plus 165.
Awesome. I'm taking Oregon to make the conference championship game. What about you, Stefan?
I'm going to take them under 10.5 wins at plus 120.
Let's hope for a 10-2 there.
Yeah.
I think we could get that. I'm going to take the Penn State Nittany Lions to make the college football playoff at minus 125. We have no bets for you on Purdue. I don't think anyone's betting on Purdue, to be fair. All right, Stefan, what do we got for Rutgers?
Despite our hatred for New Jersey, we love Rutgers. Over
Jersey's great.
We shit on New Jersey a lot in this show.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, over 6.5. I agree. Let's go.
Awesome. Okay. I'm taking UCLA to just fall into the basement of college football at under minus 4 and under 4.5. USC, we have no picks. Not a lot of confidence in this team either way. University of Washington, I am taking under 6.5 for the runners up. And Wisconsin, I hope you're hungry for nothing yet again. that is it
Woo!
for us.
59
Jen,
minutes, 49 seconds.
Any final words?
No.
And I'm gonna hit this outro and we're gonna hit
Get out of here before we hit a minute.